Well, we stopped. We had layover in New York, but we didn't. I don't think we got out or we stayed in the hospital. I think we came straight from there to Minneapolis. So my first chance to step outside of like the airport was I think in Minneapolis.
The following is a production of the Universal.
That's called branding.
Testing. Okay, so this mic actually works. So from Abdul, you can see that he has a better memory of how he got here. And this is his own experience, and my experience is totally different. So what you can see is both of our journeys are different. And what we really wanted to collect in the SHEEKO project was to show that not all immigrants or Somali youth that immigrated to the United States had the same experiences through their journey. And this was our main objective, and to archive and share that on the website, and connect and let it, help other Somali youth and peers connect with each other through this website by sharing their experiences and to grow. Next, we'll talk about education, and Saida Hassan will lead us into that. Thank you.
I'm just going to show you the video before I talk about it, and I guess the theme of this is education and just talking about what happens in school, outside of it a little bit, the learning process, and this is one of our recent interviews, and his name is Galat, so I'll just explain it later.
My brother went to the high school immediately. I had to wait a few months. They made me take a few tests to kind of see where I was at. And I could not enroll. I was trying to enroll into Central Middle School, but I could not enroll until I think, well into November, I think. I do not really remember the date, but I had to wait at least a month before I started school, as my brother started right away. I started seventh grade here, and I was not too happy about that. I'm not too happy about that. Primarily because they academically they said I should have been, 8th grade, but, age-wise, they said, he must, stay with his peers. Because over there, where I came from, it was, if you're good at what you're doing, they advance you regardless of age. Whereas here, it was primarily age. And so I really wanted, I was in 8th grade, so I wanted to go on, 8th grade and, see what they're doing. But, so they kept me in 7th grade, which was not at all bad, gave me more time to get used to, the school, to my new environment. I had to adjust by becoming just a little bit more lazy, I think, I didn't have to walk to school for miles anymore. I didn't have to study extra hard. I didn't, the teachers, the day before they give you a test, they'd be like, hey, this is a practice test, and this looks like, it looks exactly like the one you're going to take tomorrow. So I felt like everything was just, a little bit, easier. So, and in terms of fitting in, I never did. I never did. Sometimes, I would watch some of the television shows, Disney Channel at that time, and just this obsession with fitting in and friends and everything, which I never quite picked up. And I don't know if it was, because of my background or the way because I grew up, but I just really did not understand that thing. All I knew was, wake up, you have to, go to school, you have this homework to do, the basics, the necessities. So that's basically what I did. And, in terms of friends and everything, one thing that made it very easy was there was a whole, population in the prairie, the Somali immigrant population, who spoke the same language, who had the same experiences and everything. Thus, friendship was almost automatic. So You meet another Somali guy in a school that is about, 90-something% white, you two immediately, bond, and there wasn't, at that time in 2002, there was not a very large population of Somali students in schools. There's a lot more now, I believe, but at that time there was a good number, but not too many. But everyone knew each other, and that's really how, friendship, that's the group you had to fit in, as opposed to where in terms of fitting in, with a larger, white majority group, all you had to do was fit in with a small group, which was almost automatic. You're Somali, you're in. And in terms of, the American white, sort of population, it was basically, we just never crossed paths, to be honest with you. I went 7th grade, 8th grade, all the way to, 11th grade at the Edinburgh school system. And I never really, other than teachers who were very, very kind to me, very, very good to me, and who I pulled aside, or, say, hey, how can you help me with this, or stayed after school, to help me with some project. Other than that, I really did not interact much with, the non-Somali students at the in Edinburgh. Unfortunately, I was separated from the Somali students, because one thing is, a lot of them tended to be in the English as a second language classes, ESL. I think they switched it out to ELL, but so they were basically kept off from the rest of the school. They went to, and I guess this is the reason why they were all friends. They were all in the same classes, from first hour all the way to 7th hour in middle school, and ESL, math, ESL English, ESL science, ESL this. So they themselves got to interact with people, perhaps in one or two of their classes. I, on the other hand, I was not in any of the ESL classes. My English was okay, it was not great. It was heavily accented. I hope I'm not, butchering this interview with it right now. But it was, whereas they were separate, they were separated by their conditions. And for me, I separated myself, voluntarily. And in all my classes, on a good day, you could find one Somali student in my classes. And the several times I was 7 classes. So, there are classes. You go to class, you write whatever you gotta write. If you have a project, you do it, with a partner if you're assigned. But as soon as class ends, you look in the hallways, there's a Somali person and you start chatting with them. And so really did not get to form a lot of friendships with non-Somali students outside of the school, even in school, I guess. The answer, and I raised my hand, and the answer is 30. Now, we say 30 very differently, in Nairobi, I can't even recall about it, 30 or something, something like that, So, and then everyone in class and the teacher looked at that, and I'm trying to say 30. The answer is 30. And she goes, huh? I'm saying 30. Huh? Now then I remembered. I'm the whole time saying 30, It's 30, it's 30, the answer 30. And everyone in class is looking at me like, huh? I'm sure some of them understand because they knew the answer, but I remembered when we were coming, one of the little funny things my father was telling me was that, they don't say 30 here, they say 30, So his was, his was a heavily, Somali-sized accent. So I tried that one, 30. She got it. She got it. So I tried 30 and, she got it. So that's one of the reasons, the accent is primarily one. It was very, it's difficult to communicate with the students. my English was, I believe my English was fair, and you know they could really they could understand me if I spoke slow. But why go through all that trouble? You know, a lot of TV, try to picking up the accents. Also a lot of.
Just tell you a little bit about Galit. Galit right now attends the University of Duke, and he's a junior studying international studies and mass communication, I believe. So I picked this clip because our themes, like they told you guys, that it's a variety of things from identity to education, and I am interested in education. I'm interested in multiculturalism in education. How does that, how does new immigrants feel in classrooms, in school environments? How does the system welcome them, or how do they integrate with the system? As you can see, Galit comes from a very different background, and I quote him, he says, lazy studying. So when you think about that and you compare it to Kenya, I don't know if Mustafa, I believe, mentioned that we did our own narrative. For me, I lived in Kenya too, and I believe that he is right. What we learned in 5th grade is what I was learning when I came here 8th grade. So, academic-wise, quality things, students are very challenged, and I went back, I believe last spring, to teach a boarding school there in elementary school, and their academics are very heavy. In primary school, you should see what they learn in primary school is elementary over there. And when he says when he came here, he was a bit laid back, he was different, and in my narrative, I kind of state the same thing, that it was very different. But always, you're going to have those difficulties where you are very challenged socially. And one thing that I know from studying education is that one of the core ways to learn is through social interaction. And if you lack that, you can academically go down. You can mentally go down. So as you can see, that's why I picked this clip. And Galit is. He amazingly, if I let you guys listen to the whole thing, he amazingly describes the interactions between students and how he felt more in depth, but we're still in the process of editing it. So now, what is it?
I think you've got time for maybe one more.
Yeah. So Mustafa is gonna show you the other theme that he's interested in.
Before I begin, I just want to share a little bit about Sheena. I interviewed Sheena. She's a junior at the University of Minnesota. Sheena has spent a lot of her life in the U.S., but particularly I want you to look out for how Sheena frames her own identity and look at her turning points, like what shifted Sheena and how fluid her identity kind of becomes. And also the type of, when she talks about belonging, and then I'll discuss my reaction to this interview.
Mustafa, move to your
I mean, I kind of knew that home wasn't safe. I was still very young when I left, so I didn't really know how bad it was, to what degree it was. But after I grew up a little bit and I've seen pictures and I've heard stories of people who were there longer, you could tell that the country was not very stable. And I knew why I was here. They call it the land of opportunity. So I was here to go to school, to work, just to, make a better life for myself. Whether or not I go back to Somalia, it's still, it's still being determined. But it's just to build a better life for myself. A lot of people have asked me that, and I feel like, to be honest, I'm not true to my Somali culture at all. But it's something that I'm changing, because now even at home I speak English when I could be speaking Somali. Because I am around Somali people, I should be speaking my language. I should be reading Somali books. I should be immersed in my culture more than I am. And I think it all has to do with how I grew up. You know, I grew up, I would spend 6-7 days at school, you know, and I would be speaking in English. You know, I wouldn't really be around the Somali culture other than what I wear. That'd be like the only way I'm staying true to my culture. And then when I bring that home, you know, it's another couple more hours where I'm speaking only English, and like my Somali